All right, and welcome back to another episode of Johnny on the Track. And I'm joined today by a dirt racer from Terryville, Connecticut. He finished 16th in the 358 dirt modified point standings at Lebanon Valley Speedway in Lebanon, New York. For me, the closest dirt track, which is frustrating, Brandon, but the closest dirt track to me from where I am down in Rhode Island. But I'm joined by Brandon Lane. Brandon, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to talk some dirt racing with you.
Yeah, let's do it. We were talking before the show, and like I said, you're going to be the first dirt racer we've had on the show. The timing is perfect because I'm sure, as you know, the Chili Bowl is going on right now, so we can talk that and obviously talk, all things dirt. But I want to get into you first. So talk to me. It seems like you're from what seems to be a long line of racing in your family. So talk to me about how this all started for you.
Yeah, sure. So basically, 1964, my grandfather gets in. My grandfather gets into modified racing. He originally was from New York, and he moved to Connecticut. So he raced at tracks, Plainville Stadium, and obviously Plainville now, where the movie theater is. Danbury, which is a very well-known track, Riverside Park. I mean, I can name them for 3 days probably, but he was really the one that got the family into racing. So he had two sons and a stepson that were all involved in the racing. My dad and my two uncles, and they raced from when they were kids all the way through go-karts into mini sprints at Whip City in Massachusetts. All the way into the asphalt world as far as late models. And my dad had an Actor car. And they were pretty much on the line of going full-time SK modified racing.
Sure.
That's where I came in. So, I come into racing. I mean, I started racing in 1999. I was 4 years old. I was in a go-kart. We started at Norwalk Kart Club. It's a road course, asphalt road course. And that's where a lot of my friends, actually a lot of guys that are racing today, started there as well. So I got my feet wet there. And then after a couple of years racing there, I transferred over to dirt. And that's where I never looked back. I love dirt racing, and my father racing at Whip City, obviously I was very, very young. I remember the pictures and the videos and just everything about dirt racing to me is really cool. So, for me, the asphalt racing kind of got a little bored. Unfortunately, my family didn't think that I'd be choosing this route. So they actually had a plan where I would be, racing on the karts and move my way up. And as soon as I was old enough to run a SK modified at Stafford, that's what the plan was to be. So a really close family friend, Lenny Fletcher, I call him Uncle Lenny, actually. He had a car, ready to go for me to sit in it. And I dropped the bomb on them after going to Lebanon Valley a couple of times that, I kind of want to go dirt racing. So it was definitely a change of plans, but, worst thing came to worst. And, those asphalt guys and a lot of asphalt experience on the team, they had to switch it up. So we went dirt racing.
All right.
So we got our first car. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So let me, this is a really cool story because what were the obstacles? Because like around here in New England, like there's really no like dirt racing. So I'm sure, and you're coming from a family that's all asphalt. Like what were the obstacles for you to be like, yeah, like, nah, like this is what I want to do. Like I'm sure there were plenty of obstacles, right?
Oh yeah, the biggest thing is not having the generations and generations of racing on dirt. So you come, it's basically a learning curve that we had to go through, and it was very hard for us to be competitive. Or we were always competitive, but it was twice as much work for us than everyone else because all the information that they've had from generations racing on dirt we had to learn ourselves. And what we came to find out is dirt racing is almost completely opposite than asphalt racing. Asphalt, you want the cars lower, you want the left side, left side weight, and you want the weight mounted low. Everything's opposite. In dirt racing, the chassis are higher. You got the left side weight, you got the rear percentage, but then the weight itself is up because you want the pendulum effect. You have roll, which plays more of a, you have roll in an asphalt car as well, but the center line and the roll of the race car plays a lot to do with your handling, and it's a totally different atmosphere. And the biggest thing is the track changes. The track changes from week to week. The track changes between race to race. And that's one of the reasons why I actually grew to like it as much as I do. And we kind of took off from it there. We've always liked dirt racing. I was always a big fan of the World of Outlaws, sprint cars. I always dreamed about driving one of those. And, when it came down to it is when we had the opportunity to go dirt racing, I took it, and everything seemed to work out, and we never went back.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And it's funny because you bring up Stafford Speedway and the SK Modifieds. That's what I go to watch quite a bit. But since you're talking this, now I got to head out to Lebanon. Are you currently living in New York, or are you still in Connecticut now?
So I'm in Connecticut now. We travel.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. You got to travel. What is that, like an hour?
It's an hour and about an hour and 30 minutes every week. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's a lot of work for us. But when you're passionate about something, the work turns into nothing. It doesn't really account for anything. So we started from the bottom. We started at what would be a sportsman modified. I had a couple races in a street stock, in which I did very well in. So we started in the sportsman modified. At the time, it was called a budget sportsman. Basically, it's a modified chassis body. It's got cheaper shocks on it, and it's got a 400 horsepower crate engine in it. At the time, it was very, very, very popular because it was kind of a new division. And I would start races with 44 cars in the A main.
What is it? Is it like a quarter mile?
It's a big half mile, but it's considered a 5/8 banked oval. Yeah, right. It's got big bank turns in it. I mean, it's probably one of the fastest track, if not the fastest track in the Northeast. And that's, we'll get to that, but it's one of those things where when you go to Lebanon Valley, or you go to, dirt track racing in general, but if you go to Lebanon Valley, you will not leave that place disappointed. Most guys that never been there before never stop smiling. I mean, there's nothing like it. And even on the lowest level of modified racing in the sportsman division, the cars are still going well over 100 miles an hour. Sideways racing 3 wide. It's very, very fun and entertaining.
Whew. Let's go, dude. I literally had down on one of my sheet here. I need a 30-second elevator pitch for dirt because I've never been to a dirt race. I've been to plenty of things I'm from the Northeast, so you know how it is, but so you're killing it right now. And as soon as I was talking with you and looking into Lebanon Valley, I was immediately like, well, this place is pretty close. If I'm not mistaken, the Outlaws go there, right?
They used to. They haven't been there in a couple of years. Actually, they swapped. The Outlaws stopped going probably in probably 2013 era, somewhere around there. Tony Stewart's All-Star Sprints had picked up the slack after they had left.
Okay.
And then, the last 2 years, there's been no sprint cars there at all, just, depending on scheduling and all that. But that's one of the shows that I loved. And actually growing up as a kid, being a big sprint car fan, when the sprint cars show up, there's only one other division that runs with them, and that's the 358 modified. And that's what I had ran up until this season, until I got into a big block and stuff. So I always had the dream of running, that night with those guys, because there was just something cool for me. I mean, the stands are absolutely packed. It was just a really cool night to be on the track. And eventually, years go by and dreams do come true. I found myself on the track, and we worked our way up. I mean, now we're in a big block modified, and we had a pretty killer season, this past year. It didn't end as well. We ended up 16th, but we ended up missing the last 4 races. But everything comes around, and if you work hard enough, you end up achieving your goals.
Yeah, man, just from hearing you speak, like I can just tell how much you want it, and you have that drive and you're doing something you love. And dude, like I said, I was talking before, we were talking before the podcast, and that's why I do this, because you want something so bad, you love it so bad, and you'll do anything for it. You'll continue that grind, which I respect the hell, just from this 10-15 minutes, I respect the hell out of it. But I did want to ask, so you were in the Marines, correct?
Yeah. I was in the Marines for about 6 years, actually 6 years on the dot. I went to boot camp in 4 months out of high school, October in
Wow.
2013. Yeah. We did all my training. I ended up going into reserves. So I did be able to come back, and I was still able to race when I did switch into the reserves, which was very nice. Unfortunately, that kind of broke up my racing career. But
Mhm.
at that aspect of it is that I wanted to be in the Marines and I wanted to be a race car driver, right? But you can't do both at the same time. So, when I said I was going to be join the Marine Corps, that's what I had to focus on. So as far as that went, 2013 I raced partial season, a handful of races. 2014 I didn't turn a single lap. I was away with the Marines with training, and just how everything landed, it didn't work out. 2015 I came back and raced about a half season. 2016, I was out again with the Marines, so I wasn't around at all. So after the 2016 season, from 2017 and up, we really started to be able to race more and more and more. And then 2019 is when I officially got out of the Marine Corps. So since 2019, we've really been able to be very competitive and very focused on racing now, other than having any other outside commitments.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. That's the first thing. And then second thing, what is the mindset when you have to one, like balance this, like both these things, but also like the mindset of like, oh, I have to put my dream on hold. Like what is that thought process and all that,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because uh, it's hard to answer because you want it so bad and you think about it all the time. That doesn't change.
Right.
But basically, that also stays as your motivation to keep doing what you do the best you can, because there is going to be an end eventually. So you kind of take up that time with planning and thinking about the future and what you
Right.
want to do, and so you do keep it. You're almost like dangling a carrot in front of yourself. There's times where, there's a big race going on and all my friends are at the race, and, I'm sitting in the rain in a foxhole or something, what I
Yeah.
mean? You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, or, doing some stupid training somewhere. But, it all works out. I had great times in the Marine Corps. I made some great friends in there. So I'll never take that away. And that's one thing that I'll have for the rest of my life. And at least I could say I did it.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as racing and all that goes, yeah, I had a couple of hiccups in that, being able not to race all the time, but it is what it is. You got to take it on the chin and then grow from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking with like, what is 22 or 2022, you think, what does that look like for you? What are the
So,
goals?
all right. So to hit the goals of 22, I'm going to have to bounce back to 21. So 21, we ran full time in the 358 division. Now we've had a big block ready to go, but it wasn't brought to the track. Now, what had happened is that we were running fifth in points majority of the season. I would say more than 3/4 of the season. We were 12 points separated from second. So what had happened is we had an engine issue, which we thought was catastrophic. We thought that we'd be spending a ton of money. And to me, I didn't think it was financially worth spending the money to get the motor back on track to race the last few races, when I had to take the motor back apart and get it rebuilt for the off season. That's one thing about Lebanon Valley, especially, is we rebuild our motors every single season.
It's taxing, man.
Yeah, it is. And you're talking a lot of money for a rebuild, especially. I mean, 358s and big blocks is not a cheap thing. So you got to think financially too. You got to make business decisions that make the most sense. So we had the big block there ready to go. We knew eventually we were going to go to big block race, and so I kind of took one on the chin myself and said, you know what, I will drop out of the 358 division and run the remaining races with the big block to get my feet wet. And so we could set up 2022.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that took our 5th place and, top 5s. And we didn't finish actually any race outside of top 10. I think 9th place actually was our worst finish all season, which is, unfortunate because at the end of the day, you chalk it up as a 16th 16th finish at the end of the season. But, the amount of work that we did and the finishes that we did, it doesn't really mount up to it. But again, I mean, it's racing. You can't, you're not going to have a perfect season all the time, and you can account for stuff like this happening. It's not the first, but it's not going to be the last either. So, we took the big block out solely on the aspect of just trying different things and just kind of being funky with it and see what works and what doesn't work, because we can afford that. We weren't really running for points, but we're also getting our feet wet. So coming into 22, we have a brand new car from PMC. I'm excited to get behind the wheel of PMC again. We have a brand new big block ready to go in. So we're going to be coming with new equipment, and we're going to be running full time in the big block division at Lebanon Valley.
Nice.
We plan on running the Super Dirt Series races there as well, which is a tour for the dirt. So we'll be running with them. And at the end of the season, I think we're going to start traveling just a little bit. Nothing crazy, but we'll start traveling to the tracks that we can hit. Middletown has a race called Eastern States at the end of the year. So, we're planning on doing that. Anything changes, but and kind of just tack onto the schedule, because now I'm at a point where I can focus on racing, and hopefully, year by year, we can start building that program.
And honestly, like, tell me honestly, how much time is devoted, let's say, like on a weekly basis to this for not just you, but like for the whole team too?
Yeah. I would say easily 40 plus hours. Easily.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'll put it, I was on a podcast the other week and I was asked a similar question. I spend an entire day on tire prep. And on the dirt world, the tire prep is huge. But what goes into a single tire, I'll kind of run you through, like a right rear tire, for instance. If you get a right rear tire, you got to mount it up, obviously pull it off the car, mount it on your little tire stand. And you want to grind it. So we have these very abrasive grinding wheels, usually like a diamond wheel, or one that actually, the best way to describe it is it looks like a bunch of little nails. Okay. It's very, very aggressive. And you grind the tire. You're basically cleaning the tire, you're opening up all the pores. If it's a brand new tire, you actually want to grind it, and then you can cut more grooves into it. So typically, depending where you're racing, you would cut grooves into the tire, for added traction. And then you'd put the tire back on the car for a heat cycle. You'd run it out for a practice or a heat race. You pull that tire back off, regrind it, and then now you can get into siping. And siping is it's actually like little thin slices, razor blade cuts, 4 or 5 razor blade cuts in a pattern all the way around the tire, which helps the tire in its heat cycles and helps the tire heat up, and has a lot of purposes to it. But the time that goes in to do all this is probably about 45 minutes, wow, per tire to do it right. Yeah, if you do it by hand. Now they sell tire machines, they sell a bunch of new jigs that will save you time. I do it I would say the old school way. I do it by hand. So obviously I grind, and once I get done grinding, I clean the whole tire up. I cut my grooves, I do my siping, and then I wrap it up and it goes back on the car. So by the time you do your 4 tires that are on the car and you do all your spares, you're looking at a whole day. You didn't even touch the car. You had just touched tires. So just put it in perspective.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Like, but that's the thing, like, right, where I don't have that dirt track background, so this information is cool to learn, and I'm sure, like, that's with everything too. Like, well, I can imagine, some of these people I watch at Stafford every week, like how much do they put in, right, like on a weekly basis. Yeah. And most of them have another like full-time job, but again, like, we bring it back to the fact that, like, when you love something, like, you'll do it, you'll take that time to achieve it, and achieve greatness. So again, I respect that, dude. You know what I think would look good on your car come this season?
What do you got?
A little Johnny on the track sticker, huh? Right on the rear.
I could do that for you, buddy.
I like that. I like that. All right, so let's talk. The Chili Bowl Nationals are going on right now. So one of the things I wanted to get your insight on is when you see a Kyle Larson, a Tyler Reddick, a Christopher Bell, all these guys, right, that can do something on asphalt and then immediately, have crazy good results on dirt. How do you think they're able to just go from car to car and just be that guy?
Well, personally, I could give you an answer. Most of those guys actually started on dirt. And I've always saw, with all the friends that I know and the experiences that I had, that dirt track drivers that learn and grow up on dirt, that find the way of dirt driving, transferring to asphalt is actually easy for them.
Right.
As far as an asphalt driver coming to dirt, it's a little bit different story. Not saying that guys don't do it. Guys do it all the time. But, the dirt track background is an overall great background to have as far as maneuvering the car. I mean, you see a lot of times where dirt track drivers in NASCAR, they'll get sideways on Daytona and you'll see them hold the car, and then straighten to save the thing. Because really what happens is that, that's how you would be driving a dirt car. You're turning right to go left,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's all about the throttle control. There's a lot of things that work into it as far as racing in general. That dirt you actually learn a lot from. So someone like Kyle Larson, he's an amazing, absolutely. I don't think we'll see anyone like him for a long time, but he's able to do what he does. I think by his natural abilities, to be honest with you, but he races all the time. So he's behind the wheel almost 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Running dirt, running asphalt. So at the time where he's just so comfortable in anything he gets into, and the same with Christopher Bell, those guys are just so comfortable in what they're in that it just becomes easy for them, But again, both of them, they have dirt track backgrounds. Both of them ran sprint cars. Both of them ran go-karts. I mean, I really admire the dirt track racing, and I really admire the driving styles and how many different driving styles you can have on a dirt track. I mean, if you put it as perspective, you can have a track that we call as heavy, right? So it's got a lot of moisture in the track.
Right.
It's got a lot of grip in the track. So you can blow it into the corner and you could stand on the throttle and your left front's going to, big block modify. Your left front will pick right up off the ground and, you'll shoot down the straightaway. Where if the track is iced over, it's all black, from the rubber and stuff, and it's real slick. You can't do that. You'll break traction. So you really got to have your throttle control and get the car in there, nose it in there, and you're really controlling the car with the amount of throttle you're using. If you break that traction, then you're going to get passed. If you don't get enough throttle in there, then the guys are still going to pass you. So it's really like a fine line. And when you're able to master that and all the different track conditions, when you go into asphalt, I mean, generally the track does change. The temperatures change from afternoon to night and stuff like that. But the track itself doesn't change as much as it would on dirt. So I feel these guys, for them, it's easy for them to figure that out and master it.
Yeah, I remember the Bristol dirt race. Like they literally had to almost have like a halftime because the track had changed so much, and obviously sure. We see on asphalt, like you said, when it gets to night, it's sort of a different track. Maybe some guys find some speed here and there. But again, like that Bristol dirt race, which really was one of the first like true dirt races I was able to watch, all the way through. I was like, holy crap. Like, first of all, this shit looks so much different than about 45 minutes ago, first of all. And then they had to water the whole thing, and all that. Yeah. And I was just like mesmerized by like, oh my God, like they're literally racing on a different track.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think about it, between like during your race. I mean, I've been in races before where, you'll be running the bottom the first 10 laps, and then all of a sudden the bottom's not there anymore. So now you got to like your whole line. This is in the race. It's not like you found something in the heat race or practice earlier on. and then you're going to come running and it's different. And this is like mid race. So the first 12 laps, you run on one line. Now you might have to change your line. And actually the last race that I ran, I was running the bottom in middle of the track, and I was doing okay. But I noticed I was starting to not have drive coming off the corners, and guys were really starting to get under me. So I just made the decision to run it way up on the top. So far up the top, actually, when the car rolled over in the corner, the body panel would rub the wall, and it wore a hole in the wall, like, or in the quarter panel, like this big. In the center of the court, there was a scratch on the body panel, and for that being is that the car would tip down into the, rolling into the corner,
Right.
and that top piece would actually hit the wall, and then when the car would level out, it'd come up. So, but that's where the bite was and the traction was. So I started passing cars back, on the way outside. But it's driving like that. Again, that dirt driving, that's why Kyle Larson, he's comfortable taking that NASCAR and going way up on the wall, and right. He's known for that. He's known for taking the car up and riding the wall like that, because he's been doing it his whole career. I mean, a lot of these asphalt guys, they don't know, they've never done that before. They don't know what it's like going up, hitting up in the cushion and stuff. And he does. So I think that's kind of an advantage, initial advantage. I mean, like, again, obviously these guys are professional drivers. They figure it out. It's not, not rocket scientists, but at the same time, I mean, you're talking about, time, and Kyle Larson doesn't need to spend that time to get to that point. He's already there. So, yeah.
What about, like, just in one of your normal races, like when it rains, like do you pause, or do you keep going?
So if it drizzles, we keep going.
Okay.
If it does rain, they do throw a caution. Now, if it's a passing quick shower and it drops a little bit of rain, a lot of the times we won't even come off the track. They'll have us under caution for a little while. If you're in a big block or small block, they might pull us down pit lane and have the sportsmen or have the street stocks or pro stocks go out and run the track back in, and have us come back out. A lot of times, if once you get, the thing is with the clay, because it's really not dirt, it's really like a clay.
Right.
So once you get clay too wet, it's ice. You can't even walk on it. So at that point, they have to call the race.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a mess. When it rains, that's the one bad part about dirt track racing, is when it rains, I'll tell you, it is muddy. It is really muddy. It's all over your trailer. It's all over you. It's in your car. It's on your car. It's on your truck. It's everywhere. And which is, you spend hours and hours and hours cleaning the car the following day.
Goodness.
Yeah. It's, I'm thinking about it now and I want to throw up.
That's funny. So we talked a little bit about the Bristol dirt race. And like I said, I thought it was really entertaining. And now obviously they've got a year, or they will have a year under their belt. They'll kind of know, the changes they saw throughout the track. And honestly, like, in terms of the drivers, I think a lot of us expected, like, Stenhouse ran second. And that was one of the guys going in, like, hey, Stenhouse is a dirt racer. Like, this is what he started on. Like, we expect him to have a good run. But at the same time, a local Connecticut guy, Logano, wins this thing, who barely has any dirt experience. Yeah. So what are you expecting? I don't know if you watched the race. Honestly, I'm sure you did. What are you expecting this year out of the race?
Well, I mean, I'm expecting a lot of the drivers to catch on. Again, I mean, it's going to be different from the guys that drive dirt all year round to the guys that drive dirt, when the cup shows up.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second, because I think it's funny how, like, Kyle Busch has, like, really, before, like, this season, hadn't really ran a lot of dirt. And now we see him, he's out there now, like, what it seems to be every week, racing dirt, which I think is funny, because I think like some of these guys that didn't do it, like, enjoyed it that much.
Oh yeah. I'll vouch for it myself. I mean, that's how I got here, but it is that. I mean, these good drivers, they do realize that, it is kind of an art to master, dirt track racing, but it's fun racing. I mean, when you're racing asphalt, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. When your car's set up, I mean, you got the wheel, you're turning from here to here. to back, and that's all you're doing. If your car is set up, that's it. When you're dirt racing, I mean, you're all over the place sometimes, but you're so active inside the cockpit of the car. I mean, we're going from inside to outside to rumming the cushion to coming down the bottom, and then it glazes over. So then you're a little less on the throttle. Well, then at the end of the race, or for instance, that's a heat race, and your feature comes out, the sun goes down, the traction comes back to the track, the bike comes back. So now you're more hammered down. You're dialing rear brake into the car. I mean, it's so like crazy going on in there that it makes it exciting. And when you see a dirt race, from a fan perspective, I mean, you see three wide racing all the time. I mean, you got guys, Lebanon Valley, you're going 135 miles an hour or faster in a big block, in a small block. And then you're going, sideways into the corner, your left front tire's coming off the ground. And by the way, there's two more guys doing the same thing right next to you that could probably reach out of the car and touch them. I mean, it's just so exciting. And you don't really get that in asphalt racing. I mean, I've raced a lot of races at Stafford, and I laugh sometimes because you get, a couple guys in a straight line, and the announcer kind of goes crazy, and he does a little bump, and he gets under them, and everyone goes nuts, and then they get back in line again. I'm like, wow, that was fun,
Yeah. Like, we got like 8 seconds. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that was a good move. And I get it, it's racing. I'm cool about that, but I laugh because you picture Lebanon Valley, and I picture a guy like, oh yeah, you can't get around on the inside. Well, now this guy's way up on top, and it's just the moves are more like erratic, and it's just super exciting to be involved with as a driver and as a fan. So that's what really won the heart for dirt track racing for me.
Well, and just from you describing it to me, like I feel like you kind of have to be in good shape. Like, to be honest, like that's what I'm getting. Like, honestly,
I just came from the gym.
Yeah, right. So like, I know obviously, NASCAR and asphalt, you could be in heat, you could lose like 8 pounds sweating, right? A race.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Talk to me about that, because like that's what I'm getting. Like, it seems like it's taxing on your body, like wheeling it back this way, wheeling it back the other way, like sweating to, like, and again, you have to be focused that whole time. We're like, oh shoot, my car's going this way, gotta get it back straight again. So like, talk to me about that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, every variable that you can count for on the racetrack really does play its part, and the weather, the heat, that's all one of them. The biggest thing is, as simple as it sounds, when you go to line up for your race and you're in staging, and it's mid-August and it's 100 degrees out, 95 degrees out, well, you're cooking inside that car. Typically, if you've already been out for practice or a heat race, and your car's already warm, so it's already warm in the cockpit. How it is, you got your your 3-layer fire suit on and your helmet, and if you're lucky enough, you have a helmet blower on, which does help. But that's another thing. I mean, you dehydrate yourself before you even get out into the race. I mean, then you start doing making lack of judgment moves, and stuff could really go bad.
Yeah.
But again, you get out of the car, and my grandfather told me a funny story. Like, he said, a long time ago, he raced a 100-lap race. I forgot, to be honest, what track it was. It's upstate New York. Well, long story short is, he got out of the race, and he pulled in, and he pulled up to the trailer, and his crew chief said, hey, his name is Johnny as well. He said, hey, why don't Johnny load it up on the trailer? And he didn't have the energy to turn the wheels and straighten the car out to get it onto the trailer, because he was so exhausted.
Right.
And I relate to him, because I've got out of the car before where, your adrenaline's going, so you don't really feel it as much sometimes, but there's sometimes you get out of the car and you're like, I gotta go sit down. And you drink a whole bottle of water, and you're just like winded, it's like, holy crap, I just did 8 laps. I don't know what happened, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So.
Damn, man. Yeah, like I said, like when you were talking about it, like that was the first thing that I thought of, was like, holy crap, like it sounds so taxing. And that's a good story, coming out huffing and puffing, taking up with water. I can only imagine. And honestly, like when I'm at Stafford sometimes, right, and you're walking around and you're seeing some of the drivers, and it's like an 85, 90-degree day, the first thing I can think of is like, holy shit, like those guys in those suits, like, what are they feeling right now? And then like with the mindset, oh, now I got to go like do 40, do 60, do 80, whatever it is, laps. And oh my God, man, it makes me like sweat just thinking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, especially too, like another variable, we could talk about is, so say you mentioned earlier, it rains a little bit. Well, when it rains or when they water the track and it's really heavy, you normally get a lot of dirt in your helmet, so
Right.
you're really pulling tear offs a lot. If the track's really dry, you really don't pull that many tear offs. Maybe one or two here and there, but when the track's really heavy, I mean, aside from running the car how you would run it, and trying to be as smooth as possible with it. I mean, you're also reaching up, grabbing tear offs, and I mean, it's a split second that your visor just completely muds right over. So I mean, you could be racing, and all of a sudden you can't see anything, and you got to pull a tear off. And I can't tell you how many times I joke about it with my buddies all the time because we've all done it. You're reaching for tear offs, and you actually grab the whole stack. So we'll have a stack of tear offs. You could run 10, 12, 15, you can run as many as you want.
Yeah.
And there's times where you pull one and you go for a second one and you pull the whole stack off. Oof. So then you got to pull another one. You're like, wait a second, there's nothing there. So now you're trying to clean the visor with your glove. If it's wet, you smear it across. It's brutal. But that's in all the fun of it. I mean, that's a variable that asphalt guys don't have to deal with. And a lot of them like that.
Yeah.
a lot of them like the fact they don't have to run tear offs or anything like that. But I look at it as just one more obstacle that you got to get around to finish the race.
No, this is awesome. This is a good conversation because honestly, like a lot of my family members, right, are listening to this. They don't give a crap about racing. They don't watch, whatever, NASCAR, motorsports, whatever it is. But sometimes when they do watch, right, they say like, holy crap, like I never thought that much goes into it. And that's what I always try to explain to them is like, no, like you have to listen to what these drivers say. Like there's so much that you don't know. You don't, oh, he's in a car going around in circles for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, sure. Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. In a simple sense, yeah, that's what he does, I guess. But then like, you don't think about stuff like that, keeping the car straight, right? Like, getting loose off a turn and what that's like for someone going 130, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So man, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate it because it's always good to learn. Which, like I said, you're the first dirt driver I've had. So to learn like that, aspect of it, is always cool. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on and you've sold me. I am going to be heading up to Lebanon Valley. Definitely. When do you guys start up?
So we typically start at the end of April.
Okay.
Our first race normally starts the very last week of April, or the first weekend of May.
Okay.
Depending on how the weather is, it's common to get a couple rainouts at the beginning of the season. But so we'll race from April to mid-September at the Valley. And then after September, we'll start, racing races outside of our home track. So, well, yeah, I don't look forward to seeing you there. And I look forward to seeing you maybe in a Lane Racing t-shirt or something. I think that'll look good.
I think so. I think I'll grab a Lane Racing t-shirt. I'll send you Johnny on the track sticker. We got some, what is it? Like I don't know. It's like a foot sticker. Looks right here. If you see that, throw that on. What about an SK modified car? You think we'd ever see maybe at Stafford SK?
It's very, very possible. I've come close to a couple opportunities, and I'm not, that's not something I would shy away from. I would definitely love to race as many things as I can. And running an SK at Stafford for me is more than just an opportunity. It's more of a sentimental to me as well, because that is where my family came from. So that is something that I would enjoy doing. As far as racing week to week and enjoy what I do, I mean, I don't think I'd ever leave dirt racing, but as getting into an asphalt car, especially an SK or tour type modified, that is something that I would enjoy doing. And hopefully
we like
one of
that.
these days I'll get that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and again, like I said, we'll be there definitely. I can't wait to check it out because I got a buddy. I tell this story quite a bit on the show, but I have a buddy who he lives in Nashville now. He's originally from Illinois, which is a big, obviously, dirt racing state. Yeah. And dude, he gives me so much crap. He's like, your only NASCAR track up there is New Hampshire. you don't have any dirt tracks. Like, you need to understand like what this culture is. And he's been trying to get me. Yeah, man, he's been trying to get me to a dirt race for a while, for a couple years now. But like I said, he's been living in Nashville, so it's tough to make that trek down. But I'll see him soon. He's actually getting married soon, so maybe in between the ceremony we'll hit up a dirt track race. But no matter what, like I said, we'll be at Lebanon. Dude, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Yeah, so absolutely. So again, everyone, this was Johnny on the Track. We had Brandon Lane on the show today. And Brandon, we're rooting for you, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Cool. Thanks, guys.